part of this conversation this morning. Just one for you, so you to recognize a face, a familiar face, as we go forward and see how we can connect our parent group with our family engagement coordinator and department. So I'll turn it over to you for a sec.
So my name is Fosia Tahir, and I'm first of all a member of the community because I have 3 alumni, Armstrong alumni. So the other thing is I'm family and community engagement is district-wide, and that's why I'm here to help the parents to be connected to the school and the student success. That's the two things that I would like to focus. So if I give you an overview from the family and community engagement, we focus the student success in 3 spheres: the community-wise, the family-wise, and then to the school-wise. So we focus helping the schools, how we get connected to the families. Families will help with whatever they have, what is hindering to connect it to the school. And we make the cultures and the diversity and everything from the community, based in their culture, we connect to the school. So, and overall that's that. I would like to be part of this group this year. Working. I see a lot of families are connected now, but I want to reach out to those who are not attending.
All right, so I know we could probably got a lot of questions and things we want to talk about, and I know there's a couple hot buttons, so I'm just so you know, I'm kind of one of those people that let's just talk about it, and let's just get it out there and see where we can go with this. So I had some questions that I received last night, and so I just wrote out some things, and then we can talk about it if I'm not clear on some questions that were presented to me. Scheduling issues this year, it's been a nightmare, and I've been a scheduler for 13 years. And I brought in Krista, I think I told you this, on July 15th I started, and I brought Krista in July 22nd to help me get it going. The biggest piece that you probably won't concern you is that the schedule was not rolled over. And what that means is the schedule from last year has to roll over to the next year, and then I can go in and change like classes. Instead of Mr. Jones teaching first period, he's going to teach second, and moving things around to help students. It wasn't rolled over, so I started over with 0. That takes, and it's a lot of data entry where you go in and you put in the class in the computer program. That takes about a week just to get that organized. So Chris and I hit that pretty hard. So I know there was some concerns about schedule changes, about students changing teachers, and that was because what we call is right sizing. So we get, once we run the schedule, it's called a spin, and we get students that when we first did our spin, it was like 18%. 18% of our students had a full schedule when I got here. By the time we got to, August 29th, we were at 94%. But that's what took a long time, and so that we were moving students around for the right classes at the right time. And so students, their schedule changed or their teacher changed based on what we were doing. And also, if we had a class that was the same class, American History, 10th grade, one class had 42 kids in it, and the other class had 26. So right sizing, obviously, do the math, split it, and we move kids around. That's called right sizing. That's what we did. And some students their families were not happy with that because they lost a teacher. And I totally understand that, but the counselors, that's what we have to do. So we're not going to have a class of 42 kids. And that's part of the scheduling process. And what I can tell you, if I'm here or not next year, Krista will be, and she's a better scheduler than me. And I taught her at Plymouth 12 years ago how to do it, and she's incredible. And it's going to be rolled over, and it'll be much improved, and really we should have the schedule almost at 90% or 95% by June. That's how I've operated when I did the schedule at Cooper. I left June, had a month off, and the schedule was really done, so that there was minimal changes. The other change was that I know that some people lost their advisory if they were seniors or juniors, and that was because of the BAR program. That some of the teachers that your student may have had that is now part of the bar, and they dropped down to ninth grade, having a ninth grade advisor. And I know I fielded a couple of calls on that as well. Any questions on that or concerns? Okay, so a question came up, and just so you're aware of that, we, do allow students to have open lunch, upperclassmen, and we are following the policy that has been here forever, and now it feels different, and I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Students that have open lunch can go out and go wherever they want and come back. Before, they could come back whenever they wanted, they could leave when they wanted, and they're designated a lunchtime, B lunch, C lunch, or D lunch. They can go out, but I don't want them back in the building until the lunch is over for their time. So it's a 30-minute period. So if they come back early, especially like during the winter time, they'll just be in the foyer, nice and warm, they'll be right there, and then as soon as the passing time starts, they leave. And it's just a safety issue for our other part of the building, other kids are in the building, and we just don't want to walk around the hallways. It's just a little, but I had a question on that, and it's just something that's always been there, but it's not really been enforced, and I'm just saying, I think with our staffing, we don't have people that can supervise the hallways 24/7. So, especially during lunch.
And I just want to say, as a staff person here, that I really like that change.
Moving kids to the cafeteria or to their class so they're not late. That's a change because our counselors and psychologists, social workers, they didn't have that duty before, but that's something that we've established here just for more security and make it safer for our kids. A lot of questions about electives, that there's no electives, and we're full, and we are. And one of the reasons for that is because before they had, some teachers taught 6 periods, so we have 7 periods in a day, and they taught 6 periods, and then they had an open period where that was their prep. We can't do that anymore without paying them more. It's called a 1.2. So a teacher's paid 1.0 full-time teacher. If we add a section, they were paid, and that's about roughly, depending on the teacher's salary range, is between about $6,000 to $8,000 more. We don't have that luxury, and that was part of what the scheduling problem was, that like art is the biggest one, that we, Pat Fair, if you know Pat, she taught that, and 6 periods, and we can't do that because I have to pay her. I don't have the budget for it. And that's a district thing. I brought it to their attention, and that goes back to our enrollment. Just so you know, I check every day since mid-August, and our enrollment right now this morning is 1996, and that's down from 2014 yesterday. So what we're doing is we're right-sizing our enrollment. So when students aren't showing, we drop them. If we know they're not coming, or we get a request for records from a different school. So we're about, and that's still, and we were budgeted for 1946. So we're short, and we get an extra FTE, so they say every 30 kids roughly. That's the formula. So we had budgeted for 1946. Right now we're at 1996. So we're almost 2 short. The good news is the district gave us extra FTE late August to add some sections, and that was good, but what we're trying to do is get the district to give us it faster and earlier, so that helps with the schedule.
So can I clarify my understanding?
Mm-hmm, sure.
So 6, if they teach 6 periods, that's 1.2?
That's 1.2.
So
3
5?
lunches, you may or may not know that, and we had 4, we're down to 3, and I'm gonna get it down to 2, I think, by January. We're working on some things, and I'm working on buying some high top tables to go downstairs by the cafeteria, so our kids get off the floor. I'm just telling you, if you've been here, parents, I know I've seen some of you here, that drives me crazy. They're eating on the floor, and I'm trying to get that taken care of. I moved some tables up to where the steps are by the cafeteria, so they can eat there. And then I'm looking at buying countertops. That would be about, so they could stand and eat if they wanted to. Because it's really not, it's not a lack of, it's not about space. It's about where they want to sit. Because I'm like, why don't you guys go sit over there? No, we don't know them. Well, go get to know them, you know, but you know how kids are. It's not about space because we wouldn't go over capacity. But I'm trying to create more space downstairs by buying high top tables with chairs so that they could sit and eat like these chairs right here. This is what I want to buy. And I have some capital money to do that. And hopefully create more space. And I want to thank you for the parents that came by the first week and helped us with the pins. It seemed to go okay. Question about how it went for the Great Armstrong Experience. We checked out just under 600, I think. Mark, wasn't it just under 600 Chromebooks? And we served 1,100 hot dogs. I told the staff the next morning because I said it felt like we saw 30,000 people last night. Because it was full, and if you were there. Feedback, I got good feedback from parents and teachers, and I know some people liked the next week where you could follow your student schedule, but most people enjoyed that. Teachers and administrators, I'll be honest with you, yeah, we like that because it's one day, we just pack it in and we do everything in one day. So, but I asked the teachers for feedback because I just wanted to know, is this something that we want to continue or you want to continue? And it sounded like it was a yes. I don't know if feedback from you guys, if you'd like, I'm open to that. Some of you found me and told me yes, no. And I did tell our teachers that let's just make it a meet and greet so we don't get clogged. And I don't know I never heard if it worked or not, but I just know that was a concern that we talked about. It's also been brought up, and we're looking, Krista and I look at it every single day. I know Jamie's here, and Jamie and his staff, every day we look at it. We try to right size classes. We try, we try not to move kids anymore. But, and if there's a concern, like I got a couple that we got 40 kids in Spanish, and I'm like, I'll go right to Chris. I go, we got 40 kids, and we look, and it's 34. Might feel like 40, but it's 34. And when we get to 35, we'll really start looking. Like, can we do something, and if there's an option. But I know it's packed in the study halls. We're starting to move study halls where teachers, we have 3 of them together, and it's like 150 people in the balcony, and now we're starting to move them. Media center will be open in the next few weeks. Resource rooms are opening, and we'll get those shrunk down. And some teachers have been I'll take 30 kids are going to my room, and so it's smaller, because that's a concern, because my kids can't study in a room of 150, and I get that. It's part of the process of kind of settling the building, and it's the first 2-week kind of growing pains. And I go back to when I told you about there's not as many 6 period or teachers teaching 6. That's what you're seeing. Study halls are full, and now we're starting to move them. So that's a different thing that happened than last year. 2 problems that we're working on. Number one is I was made aware of the senior panoramic picture on Monday, and some of our PESO students were not there. I'm working with Life Touch to see if they can come back out, if that's a possibility. I'm not making any promises. I'm telling you, I heard from you, and one thing that I found out as a new person to Armstrong is that I operated on a different level at Cooper. Sorry, I'm just going to mention that, or I can say best practices, is that each grade level counselor and principal had access to the Schoology account that we could have blasted our seniors and remind them. I found out that we didn't do that. That's on me. I found out that afterwards, and I said this won't happen again. And I made it clear to our APs and our counselors. I sent our counselors an email last night. Going forward, any communication that for your grade level must be on Schoology. We also, just so you know, in the senior panoramic, we had it in the paper calendar, the activities calendar was in there. There was a link on our website, but and I responded to a few parents that, yep, we missed that Schoology piece, and I'll own that, but going forward, that's how you should be communicated. And that's growing pains, and no excuses, because it drives me crazy if I ever have to send a message out twice, or if I miss a message. It drives me nuts. And so I apologize if that affected your senior. just so you know, that last year there was a total of 6 panoramic pictures bought. So it turned into a big thing, and 6 were bought. And I'm just saying, so if we redo this, I expect everybody senior in here to buy nice little togas. And I'm just gonna be honest, is we made an administrative decision on Monday that tomorrow night's football game is considered a whiteout. Everybody's wearing white. We have shirts to buy, you know. And in the last few years, students have worn togas. And I wasn't here for it. I asked for the history and everything behind it, and I've received numerous emails on togas. That parents want their child to be able, or student to wear a toga tomorrow night. And so I've had also some seniors that have talked to me about it, and this is a tradition and that, and I'm like, okay. I'm trying to gather the history. I talked to the administrators that were here, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, there were some problems, and it's not like it can't happen without a toga, but it's very difficult. They can sneak things in that aren't appropriate for a high school game, and that has happened the last few years. That's why it was not, that's why we said no. However, I'm not promising you or anybody anything, but I said I want to meet with what we call our student advisory board. After this meeting, I said I'd meet you second period to see if we can talk and get an agreement with the seniors. Some parents feel that we're punishing kids for past practices and their seniors being punished, which I think is reasonable and fair. And I'm just saying, as an educator, when I know there's a problem with a certain way things go, I try to be preventative so that it's safe for our school. I don't want any poor sportsmanship tomorrow night. I guess baby powder's a big thing on whiteouts, and they sneak it in and then it's all over the place. Stuff like that. And I'm saying if we can get an understanding, maybe I can say, seniors, you monitor it and give them some responsibility. No promises. I'm gonna meet with them and see what we come up with. So I know I've talked to some of you on that. But I know that was a hot topic. But toga. Please email me. Please call me. I'm okay. And if I do something wrong, you'll let me know. I know. And I'm okay. Because I want this experience to be good for everybody. Great for everybody. And I'm not afraid to make sure we get it right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so this year we received a grant. Actually, the grant started last year for doing the BAR program. BAR stands for Building Assets, Reducing Risk. It started in St. Louis Park about 20 years ago, intentionally targeting 9th graders to have them have a better experience in high school, and hopefully by having that better experience also reduce the failure rate in 9th grade. So we received the grant last year. Cooper had just a small percentage of their students in 9th grade did the BAR program, and then we got the BAR program this year fully implemented across the whole 9th grade. So what we have, your students who, if you have 9th graders, they might not even know that they are in a BAR team, but we have scheduled the majority of students to have 3 similar teachers. So the areas that we have, English 9, physical science, geometry, and human geography. So most students have a combination of 3, or in some cases because of the class that they have, maybe 2 of the same teachers. And then we have a BAR coordinator. We have 2, actually, we have a part-time BAR, we have Ann Beaton is part-time BAR coordinator, and then she teaches, and then Tim Lloyd is part-time BAR coordinator, and he also teaches. And then we have myself and our new counselor, Melinda Vogel, splitting the 9th grade. So we have lots of resources built towards supporting the program. So right now, the BAR team is meeting in this area over here to go over the 9th graders in their team. So the hope is that if your student is struggling, if your student is having issues, we then try to address those and talk about those as a team. So the student, we just had a student, we talked about a student yesterday in bar. Student is struggling in their science class, but the English teacher is like, well, no, doing great in my class. And so there's that discussion of, well, what's going on? How can this be different? The teachers have, we talked about duties earlier, and I think that's one of the reasons why maybe there's some issues with study halls. The bar teachers, their duty during the day is bar. So they have a period devoted towards making sure that the program works. So we do a lot of group meetings talking about students, but they also then have open time to say, okay, this student is struggling in my class, I'm going to go get them and talk to them because I have time, or I'm going to go meet with a parent during my bar time to try to ensure that we're making sure that kids are being successful in 9th grade. Because when we talk about graduation rate, you don't attack graduation rate in the senior year. You take care of it in 9th grade and 10th grade, and you make sure students are getting their credits early versus trying to catch up at the end. There's also a lot of other things that go on with bar. One of the things that they have already started is doing, it's called I time. So it's meant for, in the classrooms, more community building within the classroom. So they do an activity where they're interacting. It's not about the social studies that they're working on. It's more about interpersonal communication and being a group. And so the research has shown that students tend to feel more connected to their peers, more connected to their schools because they've done this bar program starting up from 9th grade. So this is our first year. We're doing the best we can with what we have. I will say when we started scheduling bar, we had about 430, 450 students. Our enrollment in the 9th grade has definitely increased. We're at, I think, 520, 530-ish area. So we got a lot of students after the fact that we scheduled bar. We wanted the classes to be smaller, but because we got more enrollment, they're not. So that's one of the things that has kind of happened that we weren't as prepared for as we would like to. So, and the program is research-based, and so there's a lot of data that both Ann and Tim and the counselors have to collect regarding bar, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't do a lot of promotion for bar, because they didn't want you to mess with the data. So we didn't talk about it a lot. We didn't broadcast it that we're doing bar, because the first rule of bar is you don't talk about bar until it gets into the system. So yes. So one of the things, and this is something that we'll be talking about, we'll be sending out more information about it. BAR wants to collect data, so one of the things that they're going to have that is probably not known to everyone, all 10th graders, so that we have a baseline, all 10th graders this year are going to be taking the PSAT test, paid for by BAR. So all 10th graders, it's October 15th, which is the national test date set by College Board, which also happens to be the Wednesday before MEA. So I know attendance won't be as good as if it was on a different day, but all 10th graders will be taking the PSAT. So we have a baseline, so the next year when our 10th graders take the PSAT, they have something to compare it to. So 11th graders who are going to take the PSAT still have to sign up, still have to pay. So we have to figure out how we're going to do that as a building, but that is something that is just kind of an FYI for parents. So anyways, that's my 5-minute synopsis of BAR. I would like to open it up for questions. If anyone has questions about the BAR program, about 9th grade, or anything, go ahead.
I'm wondering about the data. So I understand the PSAT will be one data point, but what kind of data are you collecting?
So things like, they just did a survey. Mm-hmm. So we did a survey with all students ahead of time. They're going to collect data.
So the
9th graders, all 9th graders had a survey. I think they're maybe finishing up today through English, the English department. They did a survey on, how do you feel you belong, what areas do you feel you need help in, all these different things that they do a survey at the beginning, survey at the end. Then there's going to be data collected on attendance, on grades, on test scores, all those things, and then compared to what it previously was. So we did other data digs for the last few years, and in talking to the person over at St. Louis Park, and we feel it too. There's a large percentage of students that fail, and if you fail in 9th grade, that just leads to problems. So we've seen that where a large number of students are not passing a class or not passing multiple classes in 9th grade. For me, that's the biggest data point, but I know that there's more than that. The coordinators know more of the specific things that they're looking for, but because it's a grant, we will be providing them with all sorts of information as we go along.
And will the data be coupled so you'll be able to correlate things like grades and pass rates with self-perceptions of belonging and academic struggling, or is that survey anonymous and thus separate?
It's a good question that I do not know the answer to. I think the survey was not anonymous because we have identified students who said things like, I have issues with this, and there are some red flags that went off. So then we called in students right away. So it's not, it wasn't an anonymous survey. So I'm assuming that there is a way to link those two together. Yep.
How long is the grant for?
I think it is just a few years. I don't know the specifics on it, but the goal is to wean it away and just still have those things in place. So I will say the biggest piece that I found so far with BAR is time. Teachers have time. Instead of having a study hall, they have BAR. They are intentionally, or this student is working closely with this teacher, change the advisory. That's the goal is, again, there's another touch point. That teacher that has them in geometry then has them in advisory. So they're not just, before advisories were just kind of like willy-nilly, here's who you have, but this is intentional. Here's who you have for English, here's who you have for advisory. They'll be seeing you not only for English, but on Wednesdays for a short time as well. In a time where there's not a curriculum, it's more just, okay, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? What are we missing? So it's just another touch point. So any other questions about BAR, or if there are other questions about that maybe from the counseling perspective that anyone has? Even when we had Wanda, and our score is like you got an A-, and if you score 4 or 5 on the exam, we'll go back and change that A- to an A.
You have to have a 4.
So yeah, I don't know what their specifics